computer. And there we go. So welcome everybody to the Core Modules Developers meeting. We are the 16th of August 2018. So we have today myself, Mr. EPT, Ernst Peter Teminga, Andrew Affling. We have Clint Patterson, Sebastian, and Mr. Barry. Okay, so on this week's agenda, we have basically last meeting we started a survey to have an idea of which modules people are using. So we're going to be discussing that, and that's going to be finished. Then on the unfinished business, we're going to talk a little bit about forums, active forums, contributing documentation, automated builds, and local builds. So we're going to be discussing AppVeyor, VSTS. I think the subject was not completely closed. I'm going to try to go fast on the other items because I think we need some time here to discuss. I'm going to try to prioritize this one. The gallery module is still in progress. I'm going to be discussing a little bit about that. Store module. Yeah, we're going to check if we get any news about the store module from Sebastian, who was supposed to try to get in touch with Gilles Lepigochet. Repository module. There was some discussion last time about trying to contact. It's not the repository module. It's the module that would collect the other different modules, and we wanted to connect that with the GitHub APIs and stuff. So anyway, we'll discuss that.
Reports module.
How did you call it?
That's a reports module. There's a module called reports, but there's also a module called repositories. Those are two different modules.
Yeah, okay, but on the last
repository
meeting,
is from Steve Fabian.
Yeah, but this topic is not about reports or repository. This topic is about collecting all type of open source extensions in one place, dnnconnect.org. And David Poindexter has been experimenting using the GitHub API to get some more information about the different repositories.
Yeah, how did you want to call that? So we're not confused.
Yeah, it's a catalog. Maybe catalog, there's no module called catalog, so catalog is maybe simpler.
Module catalog?
Yeah. Extension catalog.
The new Forge.
Extension catalog, because it's not only about modules.
True.
Yeah.
So extensions catalog, we'll name it like this to avoid the confusion, because I was confused even myself here. Documentation and issue templates, we'll discuss a little bit about GitHub pages. Last time we started talking about automatic release notes, so we'll see if there's any news on this.
Daniel?
Yes?
Sorry, but 7.6, the first line is about the repository module. The others might be something different, but the first line, contacting Steve Fabian, that's about the repository module. So we have, sorry, but we need to make it clear. And then you can copy over this, the first line, yes.
So that would be this part here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it was like two different subjects here.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Then in the new business, I got some news about the Active Directory module, which I'll discuss. And I would like to introduce the idea. We discussed it a little bit, not in these meetings, but on Slack and stuff, to replace the source packages, because now you can just clone from GitHub, to replace the source packages by debug packages, so people could just, anyway, we'll discuss this in details, but people could install like the symbols as a package instead of having to go put them inside of the bin folder and stuff. So based on that, is there anything that you guys want to add, remove, or modify on this week's agenda? Sounds good. Okay, well, let's start with that. Let me just turn off my phone here. Okay. Okay, so statistics, we've got 62 answers to the survey I have made, and pretty much everything is about what I was expecting, except, well, I guess different people would see different things as surprises. I knew the form and list would be very high. The block iframe, I'm really surprised to see it that high. It's, so easy to just make it into the HTML module, so I'm surprised about this
Yeah,
one.
but not if you want to adapt the size of the iframe, and that's an option which you only have if you use the iframe module, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I was not expecting it would be so popular, so like 43% of responders. I'm personally surprised with that one. And then we have events, FAQ, documents, feedback, reports, announcement, which I knew I was expecting this one to be higher, but it's still in the popular ones. Links, I thought that would be dead a long time ago, but it's still in use by 30% of people. And Active Directory, I thought this was not working. I actually have another point in today's agenda, but it looks like 30% of the people who replied are still using that. So,
but you didn't ask for the DNN version they are using. Some might use some DNN 6 or 7. Or
yes, I did realize that too late, but we should have asked the DNN versions that people use in that same survey. It would have been a nice thing to know. Users online, I would have thought that would be much lower than that. And active forums, about 1/3 of the respondents are using that, and a little bit less for forums. We have another point in this week's agenda about these two. Then there's the wiki, newsletter, XML SSL, newsfeed, survey. I didn't expect this to be much high. Media, repository. In the other sections, we're going to see them lower. And then gallery, I thought I was the only person in this world still having a website using that, but looks like there's 5 others. And then the store, I was expecting that it's very old and not a lot of new stuff happening in there. And there's much better offerings now. And the map module, we thought that would be dead, but it's not completely. There's still 4
people. It might be DNN 4 and 5.
Yes, it might totally be. But I think we should still enable those people to be able to upgrade, in my opinion.
Can I make some small comments?
Absolutely.
First of all, your a group that you triggered to fill in the survey is the group that is active on Facebook. So I think your audience that you're targeting is maybe not a complete representative of the complete audience of DNN users. That's the first remark. Just be careful in making conclusions based upon this, well, not representative group. That's first. The second one, I'm not sure if everybody, if you talk about here about map, understands that it is the original core module map.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be that they're using a sort of map module, but not the original core map module. And that might be true for a few others as well.
Yeah, and even, well, like any survey, there's a percentage of error that people would just even click the wrong things.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like important to spend a lot of time on that module, but I thought this would be 0. Like the help here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 2 errors, but it's double of the help, which. So.
Daniel, I had a question about this. If I could
yes.
And this is also kind of towards Clint as well. Since this was shared between, our extended networks and the DNN Connect Facebook group, could we maybe create another survey on this that we can release in the DNN Digest to get more people to fill it out so we have more information about it?
Yeah, as far as getting anything in the digest, I mean, if you need feedback, I'm happy to help include it. I would just need, a little bit of guidance as to like what we're looking for, or is it just simply including a link to this survey or whatever?
Well, and the reason why I asked that is, Daniel, if you scroll up to the top of the results here, how many people filled out this survey? It said
62 people.
That's and this is great data, and I'm not trying to discount the data that we have in front of us, but it's not a very large data set.
No, not at all.
But I think a lot of integrators answered who also spoke for their clients. So it's not only one site. 62 answers doesn't mean 62 sites. It means 62. Often of them, many of them are integrators, so it covers a lot more sites, of course.
Yeah, the target group here, I would expect to have, I don't know, an average of each person who responded is probably managing 10 sites. So I'm guessing this is probably representative of, I don't know, about 500 sites. Just throwing number here, but
500 or 1,000, we don't know.
Yeah. But it gives us a little bit of an idea of the popularity. This, together with the information that we have from the spreadsheet, which has the downloads, count in
But you would need some metrics about time frame, how long. We need the number of downloads from CodePlex. That's missing here.
Yeah, well, we discussed a little bit on the last meeting about this, and most of the modules that were, what have I done here? Select all.
But even that wouldn't be much helpful because we don't know how many of the sites are still on, which might have used it in the past.
Yes. So it's kind of like nothing is perfect.
No, gives also an idea about.
I think the idea for us should be which modules are more important, which modules are less important, and as I can see from the set that events, formant list, blog. Those are events and blogs are the ones which are best maintained. Formant list has been well maintained for a long time and is very stable. So those are modules which are in a good shape and in my opinion are worth to take care of and maybe even add features if people ask for.
Yeah. So basically we have to kind of mentally aggregate. The information we have here is the download count. That doesn't mean they're used. There could be more downloads because there's more different releases and people downloaded 3-4 times because there were updates. So yeah, that's not perfect. That's not perfect because it's subjective and it's a small user base. And
it gives us an idea, and I think that's more important than exact numbers.
Yeah. We get an idea. We know what's on the bottom of the bucket, what's on the top of the bucket.
We asked last time, I'm not sure whether Clint can reply that. We asked last time if there is some statistics available from dnnsoftware.com.
Exactly. I poked Ash again a day or two ago, and well, they're very busy, but they're gonna try to get us that.
Okay.
So it's something we could get in the future.
Yeah, he would be the.
And this would be another imperfect solution because it only counts if the module is actually installed. It doesn't count if it's in use or not. So if you're upgrading, it never gets deleted, it's still installed, even if you never used it. So,
right.
But usually if I upgrade client sites, I usually remove all the modules which are not in use.
Yeah, it's a good practice, but...
For sure, not everyone does, but at least we get some numbers which modules are installed, even if they're not heavily been used.
Yeah.
We won't get perfect, you will never get perfect data, but we don't really need it. It's more important for us to decide which modules are have a user base, an active user base, where there's a demand, and well, that makes for which module it makes sense to support them.
Absolutely. So that's the result. I use the free account for SurveyMonkey, so there's no nice export that needs an upgrade for that. But what I will do, I will take a full screenshot of this and just publish this as an image in the same place we have the meeting agendas and stuff. And I might, what do you think? We should put this on the blog post of this meeting, just the nicer looking one?
Totally fine.
Cool. And yeah, and the others, people who ticked others, we got a couple comments here. We use none of these, always use Too Sexy instead, or another store. We have schedule, which I don't know this module, probably someone confusing another community.
There's never been a module called schedule.
Yeah, not that I'm aware.
There has been a scheduler for as a host module, but I don't think that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing for journal. Journal is still built in, right?
Yeah, it's also core module, which is included always. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, an extrovert for reports. Someone very happy with reports. None anymore. And yeah, HTML, which is I didn't include it in the list, but
yeah,
I'm sure everybody used that one.
So nothing special. Okay.
So for this, there we go for this item.
Fine.
Okay, then forums, active forums. I heard back from, what's his name? I'm sorry.
Mr. Brunken?
Morgan Weck, Jason Brunken.
Jason, exactly. I heard back to an email I sent like a month ago, and he's basically open to transferring that. And he had a few questions, you know, how it would work for him to maintain write access, and who else would be able to do that stuff. So I explained to him we have a concept of maintainers, and basically if you're the maintainer, we will not, you know, modify your module without asking you a review on the pull request and stuff. So I prepared a reply, and I sent that maybe a week ago, and I still didn't hear back, but at least we got the first contact. So
can we make two out of this, 2 items? Because
yes.
You're talking about active forums, and I have some results from forums.
Okay.
I contacted Ilpo Hiwande, who provided a couple of improvements, or tried to maintain the DNN forums module, make it still running for DNN version. And he reported back that he would be happy to provide us with that, and he would also like to join this group.
Awesome.
But he wasn't able to attend today because he's just camping in Finland. He's from Finland, somewhere in the countryside. So,
can you remind me of his name?
Ilpo Hiwande. Ilpo, yes, and no, it was a J. J-U-B-A. J. U-B-A-N-D-E-R. E-E-R. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you know how to invite him in Slack, you know?
No, but you will tell me.
Okay, no problem. Get in touch and
Mm-hmm.
we'll invite him to stuff. Awesome. And yeah, so for active forums, I got the first contact back from, forgot his name again.
Jason Brunken.
Brandon.
Jason.
Brandon. Jason, how is this?
RUNCKEN, I think. E. Bravo Romeo. No E. Bravo Romeo. Uniform N CKEN, I think.
I don't think it was exactly like this. Hold on, I'm just trying to find the email on my other screen.
Maybe not C, no C. Maybe no C. I'm not sure.
Active.
He's listed in the
No,
MVP
actually-
directory in the honorary. If
Okay.
you want to look.
Yeah,
you-
no, that's not the person who contacted me back. It's Seth Follickman who contacted me back.
Okay.
Seth Follickman. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't have that on hand, but it's Seth Follickman who has write access on the Active Forums repository,
Okay.
and that got back to me, and yeah, I'm waiting on news on that. So
Well, the last time during the last meeting, we discussed whether we want to provide a migration script from forums to active forums, which or try to maintain it. At the moment, I don't really see a big use for it, because if we maintain both scripts, of course, if someone is willing to maintain it, it's fine. But I don't think it should be the priority, because we
well,
want to have
depends
someone
how we
maintaining both modules.
Depends how we see it, because forums didn't have a lot of love in the past years, whereas Active Forums is more modern, and the script already exists, so we need to decide if we want to be maintaining forums, and that's it.
But Ilpo is
Or-
willing to I think Ilpo is willing to support mine to continue maintaining forums. He already created some pull requests which have never been accepted, but he created them, and that a lot of fixes, so it's running on at least DNN 7. I know, that's what I know. I didn't ask, but about
Yeah.
8 and 9, but I know that he created fixes, so it's running fine on 7, and he fixed a couple of issues as well.
Okay, so that's definitely something that we're gonna extend until he's with us on a meeting to decide what's the plan here, because it's been a plague in the past years that you submit pull requests, they don't get merged, so you don't submit anymore.
Yeah, but I think he's willing to, as far as I understood, he is willing to continue to maintain it. And if we have someone, I think it should be it's a better priority than providing a migration script.
Yes, so the original idea was that if nobody wanted to maintain forums, and there's already something better that is also open source, and this one is special because it was given to DNN. Well, it was purchased by DNN, so we would have the right to make it into a core module. And that was the general idea. There's always an upgrade script, so let's upgrade people to Active Forum, and this will become the one we maintain. So we'll rediscuss this on next meeting, see the options we have and what's the plan for the future on this. Because we have to consider people might have upgraded from forums to Active Forums already and discarded forums. Some other people might still be on forums and want to, well, we need to consider that everybody can keep something working for the future. So
there's another working third party, a free open source forum for DNN.
An open source forum for DNN, yeah.
Yes. YAF.net for there's a YAF.net module provided by Ingo Herbote, Watchers.net.
Okay.
And I created once a migration script from Active Forums to YAF.
Which,
so it should still be working.
Yeah.
To provide you with information.
YAF is it MIT2? Was it given to DNN or it's?
No, it wasn't given to. It's a separate product, but there's also Ingo created a module for it. He is member of the core team of YAF.net, and he created a DNN module for out of YAF. You can use. Some people like it better. Some people don't like it better. So it's just an option. I wouldn't call it the ultimate solution.
Okay.
Just
So,
information. So we have 3 open source modules options for forums.
for forums, yeah. The only thing is I want to differentiate what's a core module and what's a community module. I have no problem with any of them, but it's just the core modules have this extra definition that it was distributed with the platform back then. So
it was never distributed. It's just another third-party option for
exactly.
Open source. So if you describe forums, we might mention it at least. For some people, might make it better.
Yeah, totally. But there's 2 discussions we had. One was to differentiate the core modules from the other community modules. In this case, the only one that is considered a core module is forums, because that's the only one that was distributed. Active forums, although it was given, it was never distributed directly with DNN. And the other thing we discussed also, what we're going to consider a community module is not any free module. It's one that is totally given to DNN, no strings attached. So we kind of defined it with Active Directory that we discussed in 2 meetings ago or something. So I don't think YAF would be considered. It's an open source module for DNN, but it would not be under.
I just wanted to mention that it exists and it's still maintained. I just had a look at the download, and even there's a version for DNN 8 and above, so it's available.
It will be listed in the catalog, or is already listed in the catalog. But in the end, I think we should choose between either forums or active forums. I think it's a waste of time if you try to maintain both. If there's ability to migrate forums to active forums, okay. If the current forums are being maintained, we could choose that one as well. But I don't think we should choose 2 forum modules at the same time.
As far as I know, ILPO here has an interest to support, to continue supporting DNN forums. But I think there's no way for people who prefer active forums. They don't want to switch over to DNN forums. So at the moment, I don't see a path, or I don't even see a reason why we shouldn't support both. As long as there is someone who is willing to support DNN forums, why not?
I don't have a problem that people support both type of forums, but there was a definition about what is a core module. Forums, DNN forums is a core module, and the only idea to move over to active forums is that active forums is also part of DNN Corp given back to the community, but active forums essentially is not a core module.
No, exactly.
So as core modules, we should support one. But the more there are, the better I think there is.
Yeah. And I think there are lots of uses for active forums. So I think it would, if we are able to, if we have the option to support active forums, it would be beneficial for the community.
Agree.
Yeah,
but
totally. Totally. So I think we should push these 2 discussions into the next meeting where we're gonna have ILPO with us. But basically there was 2 plans. Either we maintain forums, and that's a core module we're going to support in the future, or we stop that. Well, the idea was if we stop working on forums and this becomes the new default, so that was the first idea. But now if we have someone to maintain it, it's even, it's better or it's different. We'll see.
I think the problem will be finding someone who's willing to contribute to active forum and maintaining it.
Yeah.
The bigger problem I see at the moment, and I also have a need for it.
Cool. So next subject was contributing documentation. On my side of things, I am working on a video that will be kind of a walkthrough how to set up the tools you need, Visual Studio Code, and SQL Server, install your development environment, all these things. And then at the end, when you have everything set up, I do an example of a pull request on the module. a pull request on the DNN platform, and a pull request on the persona bar. It's almost finished. I'm on the editing stages of the video, and then I would take some stuff from there and make a text version of it. EPT, you mentioned you would be start to write documentation MD, contribution MD.
Yeah.
Is that something?
If you look at the chat, you will see that I put a link over there.
Awesome.
I've done the first version of contribute here. And I used the one that was presented in DNN platform. But I changed a bit because some of the items in DNN platform had to do only with the core DNN platform or the way they work at DNN platform. But I think about 80 or 90% of the text here is similar to the text that is the contribution MD from DNN platform.
Excellent.
So I have a question on this. Well, first, thanks for doing this. This is really good to have this. I had a chance just to glance over since you shared the link. And about the CLAs, is that something that we're going to require for the core modules, that anyone that's submitting a pull request signs a CLA?
No, that was a discussion we had before you joined us, but basically all the core modules are MIT licensed, and they are not sold as part of EVOC. So the main problem with the platform was that you submit your code and it's going to be resold, right? Because it's going to be included in EVOC. We don't have that problem with the core modules. So
Okay.
we had that discussion like 4 or 5 times, and there's still a not sure thing, but after discussing it 4 or 5 times, we kind of went with, unless someone tells us we need one, it looks good so far.
Okay,
Right.
cool. Then my next question was going to be setting up the bot for CLAs, but we're going to just pull that line out underneath submitting changes. That covers
Yeah.
that.
But if it comes to that, now we're part of .NET Foundation, so we could be using the same that is used on the platform.
Right, but if we're not going to require a CLA, we don't really need
Right.
any of that.
No, that was the discussion, yeah.
Well then, okay. Just do you guys want me to submit a pull request to this to pull that stuff out, or are you going to handle that?
To pull which stuff out?
So if you're looking at the document, underneath submitting changes, the first bullet there says sign the CLA.
Oh,
And the other reference is underneath additional resources. There's a bullet point for CLA information.
yeah, that would not be required. Yeah, you could submit a pull request, and EPT will probably go accept
Yeah.
that or something.
Okay.
Changed. Okay.
All right, I'll take care of that right after this.
Thank you.
Just one more question, which just came up to my mind while you were discussing. I remember that DNN Corp was distributing versions of several modules with evoke content, and the question, and they said they were maintaining them separately. Did you ask Ash whether they created some special versions? Did they improve those modules? Did the improvements made by DNN Corp got sent back to the original distros? Did you discuss this with Ash already, Daniel?
No, I did not, but I am not aware that any of these modules were.
Yeah, they contained about 10 modules, which were formerly core modules, and they included them with DNN, with Evoke, original DNN Professional, and Evoke content. And they told us, the core team or the former MVPs, that they were maintaining those modules, creating special versions of it. I'm not sure whether they did, but at least we should ask whether they made some fixes which needs to be ported back or something like this. So that would be a question to Ash.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I right, Hans-Peter?
Yeah, I think that was the idea at some point in time. but I don't think that apart from including the modules that they ever did anything of fixing in there.
I don't know either, but at least they said it, they mentioned they wanted to do it like that, and it always was not really clear, at least to me, whether they were resubmitting or submitting them to the original distro.
As far as I know, the Evoke versions, I never saw one that had improved versions of core modules inside. And if they've shipped it, it was never more than, I think, version 7 or something like that.
The only one I could imagine would be Active Directory. I think they did some improvements to the Active Directory provider. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's something we could check, because if some of those modules have been improved since, well, they were separated at the end of DNN 5, I think, so all the way in DNN 6 and 7, if they were improved in the DNN Enterprise version or something like this, and if they want to contribute that back, yeah, it's something to check.
Yeah,
it would be worth at least asking.
Yeah, totally. So I'm gonna put the link to the contributing MD in the meeting notes. So we have that handy, and we can go outside of the meeting, inspect that, and discuss it on the actual. Is that a pull request? No, that's a document, right?
Okay.
So we can. We could create an issue here. Okay, hold on a second. GitHub IO documentation. Okay, let me copy this and let me create an issue on the reports here. I'll call it like this. Review and approve the contributing MD document. Yeah, can't assign reviewers because it's only an issue. So I created this issue here.
Yep.
And I guess we can discuss it here before we make that an official template. I think we should read that outside of this meeting. I'm just looking at the time. We could go and see that and submit pull requests for changes. And the only thing I would add on my side of things, I would like to add is how to submit an actual pull request. Will be, I guess, in this section. Or anyway, we'll see. But I'm still checking where's the best place to put the video I'm doing. So if it's going into the DNN YouTube or somewhere else, because I would like to put a PDF with it. And I'll discuss this with Clint, I guess. And whatever we put it, we could put the link into the contributing MD template for the core modules, for the platform, and for the persona bar.
I would not only put a link, but I would put an image which looks like starting a YouTube video.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, and then a title beneath it, so people would find it easily.
Excellent. Okay, next subject was automated builds and AppWare, VSTS, local builds. We wanted to do some example with the wiki module that we discussed in the past. So, Andrew.
Yeah. So one of the last meetings we were talking about setting up AppWare with the wiki module, and then we were told that we could use the VSTS instance that the .NET Foundation gave us to build our core modules. And then there's been a lot of discussion and slack between a couple of us here on this call of what's the most appropriate way to set up the build. And there's been some good points brought up of what's the balance we find by making a core module very enterprise build compliant versus making it very easy to use for someone that might not be familiar with some of the best practices when you're setting up, an enterprise DevOps solution. So, and the other conversation that came out of that was, how do we want to encourage people to run a local module build? So when all these conversations started coming up, I kind of put the brakes on setting up any type of automated builds on the wiki module for us to come back and have our appropriate discussions of how we want to solve these problems, and then kind of go from there.
Yes. For me, it's important to not confuse people, so to keep it simple, to keep it locally buildable, and then whatever we build up on top of that, I don't care as long as it doesn't break anything. Do we agree on?
So I had a big question on this.
Yeah.
And at face value to me, for core modules and for recommendations out for anyone who wants to build a community module, using the build tools that ship with Visual Studio seem like the most appropriate solution. So that would be having our MS build scripts for debug and release. The other side of that, though, is a lot of people in the community like using Gulp as to run their builds. Recently, we've been making a transition into using the Cake build engine, so we can write our build tasks in C#, and that's what DNN Platform uses. And when I talked about using AppVeyor originally, that was going to be setting up Cake build scripts. And at this point, I'm leaning more towards the side of, for the core modules, make them as simple as possible for anyone to get going using the MS build scripts that is shipped with Visual Studio. That way I don't need to worry about any additional dependencies or NuGets that are out there. And I'm on the fence about that, whether you use Cake or MS Build. They have different pros and cons. The big one that I see would be, or the big advantage of using something like MS Build would be if we're going to use VSTS as our build system, there are build activities built into the platform that allow us to generate reports such as do all the unit tests pass, and any integration tests, or maybe one, and this kind of starts going down a rabbit hole of different things that we want to do, and I'm not sure if that information is valuable to us. For me, when I run my own builds in VSTS, I find that information very valuable, where I can go see the report of 87% of my unit tests pass, and I can see exactly which ones failed right there in the web browser without having to load up like any Visual Studio test run report or anything. But as far as core modules, that might be overkill for us. I'm not sure, and I know our conversations kind of got scattered, so I wanted to talk about it in more detail here.
If you look at the core modules, I don't know any core module that has unit tests built in.
No.
So there's no unit testing in any of the core modules. So looking at VSTS, it would be an overkill. If I look at the open source extension around, I don't see many extensions that have unit tests built in. It's completely different for DNN Platform and the core, but for the open source extensions, I never came along one that has extensive unit tests built in, let alone have one unit test built in. So I think it would be an overkill. If you talk about should we use Cake or should we use MS Build, I'm open for both. As long as, let's say, if we decide to use Cake, that the installation or the implementation of a build script with Cake for a particular extension should be nothing more than just one reference or one copy of a number of files. So that start using a build with Cake should be very easy. And the advantage should be big. Like, for example, building the manifest files automatically, minifying CSS, minifying JS, and so forth. So you have to do a little bit, but in the end, it will run.
So I'm a big fan of Cake because there's really nothing that a developer needs to do besides run the build script. So, for example, compared to Gulp, you need Node for it to work. If you don't have Node installed, it's not going to work. Cake, you just run. There's a PowerShell script that you have to have in the repository as part of using Cake, and it's called build. And when you run that, it checks to see if you have the Cake build tools installed. If you don't, it automatically downloads them from NuGet, and then you have the tools, and it runs those for you. So whether you're doing that through Visual Studio, whether you're doing that through command line, or whether your build agent's doing that, I like how plug and play it is for downloading the necessary dependencies and automatically running them.
I'm in favor of Cake because I think it's one of the newer tools around. It's built on C#, so I think it's tuned to C# developers. MS Build, I think, is a little bit old. There have been a lot of extension. We have used it extensively, but I think Cake is more. And I think Gulp is a little bit more difficult depending on a lot of different tools, whereas Cake is more straightforward.
Right. One thing that we could do is, under the hood, Cake is really just calling MS Build. So the two options here are we can create a Cake build task that does the necessary packaging up of the core modules, or we could just use what's already there in the MS Build release mode. I would lean towards the side of use Cake to call MS Build, and then MS Build would do the necessary packaging. For anything that, I know a couple of the core modules are being, some people have talked about rewriting them. If they want to write their own build tasks from there, I think that's up to them. But I don't think we should be telling any maintainer that they need to rewrite any number of those steps inside that release build task into a Cake script.
Right.
And can we fire all that up from building in release mode instead?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I guess that would be the easier for everybody. Someone who's not familiar, he's just used to build in release mode and he gets his packages.
Right, and that's my point of, I don't think we should mess with the module packaging scripts that are in MS Build under release mode. I think we should use Cake as a utility to run our builds. So if I want to run my build exactly how it is on a build server, I can just run the build PowerShell script, and it's going to do everything automatically. If I want to run it through Visual Studio and it's packaged up for a release build, I can just select my release configuration and build through Visual Studio, and be done.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Okay. So then,
everybody agrees?
There are 5 people left. Yes, we are majority, 3 people here. So
that's it. The absent have no vote.
So that's right.
Just to clarify, Daniel, for the what we're agreeing on 2 main things here.
Yeah.
And we still need to talk a little bit more about build stuff. So the first item is the build packaging will be handled by MS Build. So debug will obviously, create your debug binaries, and the release will package up your release binaries just like it currently does today.
We're talking MS Build with the community tasks.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, exactly. So pretty much the build packaging locally works just how it always does. But we're going to use Cake to call those. So the build script can just call so the build script will, so the build agent would call our Cake PowerShell script, which would then invoke the MS Build or anything else that it needs to do in separate Cake script. For most of the core modules, it's just going to be one simple build command.
Right.
So then what we do from there, I'm sorry, did I say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so then I've been talking with Oliver quite a bit since Oliver and I have been kind of managing our VSTS instance for from the .NET Foundation. What we can do from here is we can create one well, let me back up. So this is another conversation that we need to have. So there's two options on how we can set up the builds in VSTS. One option is we can create one build that would understand to run the cake script. And since the cake script is more or less identical, it's just a build.ps1 file, and it would be very easy to set that one build up and have all the core modules, also all the core modules could then run that build. The problem with that is you lose some of your history on, okay, so the wiki module, the reports module, the events modules, let's say they built 10 times a day. I know they don't. Let's say they did. It'd be hard to track the artifacts from that. So, and you still can, but it's a little bit more difficult. So the other option would be creating a unique build for each core module, which would have the overhead of creating all those builds. And I'm not sure the direction that we want to go with that. I see pros and cons to both.
I like one solution because I think it will be it will be more profitable if we can enhance and improve one solution instead of having 25 different individual solutions everywhere.
Okay.
I don't understand here. You want to make, when we're talking about one solution, you mean a solution file, a Visual Studio solution file?
No. So what we're talking about here is the actual build definition that's in VSTS.
Yeah.
So the idea here is we could create a one-size-fits-all for all the core modules. So anytime we submit a pull request for a core module, it would trigger this one build out in VSTS, and that would then download the code from that repository and build it.
Okay, so basically it would just use a parameter for which module it is.
Correct. That would be that's an easy way to think about it. So the problem with that is, 20 some odd core modules, if every single one of those core modules build once a day, that's 20 build history items. And it could get confusing to track, when was the last failure of your wiki module or reports module. And so that's the downside of having that one size fits all build. But like we were saying, I think it does provide a lot of benefit because of if we need to make changes to it, it's just that one build definition that we make changes to.
If you compare to DNN Core, the platform, there can be many pull requests and builds during the day. But if you look at the core modules, if you have one pull request change a week, I would be very happy. So that the number and the amount of builds for core modules is much less. I think if you go through the core modules, some of them may have not been received any pull request in the last month or 6 months. So I think the noise that the core modules will generate is very limited.
And there would be no way to detect from which repository the pull request comes from and build only that.
So it would be able to detect, so it would be able to detect where the pull request came from, and it would download the necessary code. So, basically the way the build agent works is it would target that repository. So we submit a pull request that triggers the build, then the build agent knows, okay, I need to pull down the reports, Andrew's fork from the reports module, download that source code, and then build it.
So it wouldn't build all the core modules. I don't understand the...
So the build agent, so when you submit the pull request, we would have to set up triggers for each repository, which we already knew we were going to have to do. So when that triggers, the build agent knows, so when Andrew's fork of the reports module is submitted as a pull request, the build agent knows that the pull request has been submitted, and then downloads the code from my fork, and then tries to build it, and then it updates the stats, it updates the checks on the pull request itself.
Okay. So that looks fine to me. So basically the build packaging would keep being MS Build with community tasks as they are. Let me put this blue. And the build agent would use the cake script to call MS Build, right?
Yes.
Cool. So we want to do a demo of this still on the wiki module?
Yeah, I'll do this. We'll do this first on the wiki module, and once we get it done, I can do a short little presentation here, and we can then go ahead and roll this out to the rest of the modules.
Great.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So this was a good discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Have you been in, Andrew? Have you been in contact with Peter Donker? Because I know for sure I point Peter Donker to the cake, and he has been studying that during his holidays in the last couple of weeks, and I think he is becoming a fan of cake. So he's also a good guy to talk about a more uniform release build process using cake.
Okay, yeah, no, I've been chatting with him a little bit on Slack. Since we've rolled out Cake to the platform, a lot of people have been approaching Oliver and I, saying how much they like using it and how I think it's a good direction for the community to go in.
Yeah, and if we can use about the same tools on the different places, it's more, well, it's less different things to learn for people. So
there's still one thing that I put in the some Slack channel as well. I ask, we are talking about mostly here about modules, but there are more types of extensions, and I'm really interested what people are using to build theme packs. And I think Brian Dukes pointed me that David Poindexter is in NV Quick Theme is using Gulp.
They use Gulp, that's correct.
Yeah. So in the end, I would like to have one tool set for every kind of extension, but I know for sure that there are differences between people developing themes and people developing modules. So if he's using Gulp and we are going to use in the modules Cake, it's still two different solutions for the same task, namely put a whole bunch of files together in a zip file decorated with a manifest.
Yeah.
So in the end, I really would prefer to have one solution, but let's start with one for the wiki and Cake and see if we can have for theme packs as well. If that's a better solution than working with Gulp, because I think Gulp is a little bit more complicated for people in our Windows environment than Cake.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and we would have to do a little bit of research on how we would integrate Cake to something like NV Quick Theme, for example, because I do know that their Gulp scripts, I've looked through in quite a bit of detail, and they package up the installers through all of the Gulp scripts. They're not using MS Build, as far as I understand the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Yeoman DNN generator is doing something very similar to that. So, it's something we need to research a little bit more, and
something for later.
Keep just call the Gulp scripts.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And just for the Appveyor and VSTS subject, that would still to be decided, or what we discussed here kind of points to one or the other?
Yeah, so what we could do is we could write down as one of the items underneath that is we are going to use VSTS. .NET Foundation is giving us, they're giving us, they're letting us use it. So we're going to be using the community VSTS instance.
Awesome. Cool, so that's decided. And for someone who wants to make his own module, he could use the same principles, but on his Appveyor account, right?
Yeah, they can use it on Appveyor, VSTS, Jenkins, TeamCity, whatever they want.
Awesome. Okay, anything else about this subject?
I'll provide some documentation as well on how it all works, so people can replicate it.
Excellent. Okay, so next point was the gallery module. I'm still working on that. I got a nice code magazine that I got from Anderson Oliveira from the DNN TADOG group, and there was an interesting article on VB to C# conversion, and I'm gonna maybe restart this from the point A, because everything got wrong in that conversion. All the links between the views and the code behind are broken. There's methods that are private and shouldn't be, and it's a mess in all of the files. And this module, in my opinion, has 300% of the code that it needs to do what it does. So it's really large for not much. And yeah, that article basically speaks about first cleaning up the VB code and making it strict, and trying to get this as best as possible to best practices, and then doing the C# conversion. It's much easier and more reliable than converting to C# and then fix it there, because you don't know how it was originally. So I think this is going to get pushed another week or two before I do that rewrite, and I'm going to try to follow the suggestions in that article.
But Daniel, you realize from your survey that this is not a module where we should put most of the effort into.
From the survey, no, but for myself, I need it.
That's a different situation.
Exactly.
To be honest, I don't think it's worth. I would even start a simple module from scratch, or try to use some other documents or some files version, like user files from Evotiva, and with a special template or something like this. Use it as a replacement, because I think this module has been causing a lot of trouble for a lot of core team members for a long time, and I don't think it's worth.
I know, that's another option I was considering, was to just rebuild a totally new module that would use the old data, and that would use the same module name, so that you could still upgrade from the old one to the new one, but it would be a totally new module. This module actually does not even talk with the database. It just saves the images in folders and an XML file with the info. So it would be easy to build a new module that would just reuse that data, and then maybe move that into SQL in a future release and build from there. And I would like, well, the templating on this was pretty much non-existent. It was just CSS that you could modify. There's no really a template engine. So it might be a nice idea to just provide the core functionality in the new gallery module that would use the old data, and in here have some template engine, so people can make it a bootstrap slider, can make it a full-fledged gallery with masonry or whatever template you decide to build.
Even if you just create a module, a new version, which is retiring it and migrating it to the data into a different location where another module is then being used or needs to be installed, and you simply convert the SQL for the registration, that would be easier. I usually hesitate reusing the same name or the same metadata than the one before. It usually creates more problems than just creating a small upgrade script where you say, okay, any module which has this module ID now has this module ID, and you need to or you copy over data and make sure that it's easier than the current than trying to mimic what has been there before.
Just a point in time, we are 10 minutes past our hour.
Yes.
And I think most of the people have left.
Yeah.
Yes. So what
it's
I
just
can...
an idea for you.
Yeah, what I can do, we can, well, depends on you guys if you want to continue discussing this, or we push the rest of these items onto next meeting.
I can be very quickly about the things that I've done. The extension catalog, David Poindexter is indeed experimenting with the GitHub API, and I think in a couple of weeks he will have That's number 7.8. In a couple of weeks, he will have some routines available that will extend the catalog that I've created.
Great.
I'm struggling with the Git. That's the next one. GitHub pages. I'm not sure how to continue.
Who was it that gonna for the extensions catalog? I'm sorry, that was a bit.
Okay. David Poindexter has been experimenting with the GitHub API, and I think he's able to retrieve useful information that can be used in extending the extension catalog with
7.9. That's on 7.9. Daniel.
No, that's right. That's right. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
And I think in a couple of weeks, David will have some routines available that I'm going to implement, or we are going to implement in the extensions catalog. So apart from the name, you'll probably see things like number of downloads, latest release, number of pull requests, and so forth.
Yeah, I do realize we had too many items on this week's agenda. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's in progress, so I'm all for pushing that onto next meeting. There's nothing.
Yeah, I think so.
Could you tell that I tried to contact Gilles? I haven't been successful yet.
It's 7.7. Yeah.
7.6, yeah, and 7.7. I didn't have to took over the job to contact Steve Fabian. I'm not sure if anyone is in contact with him. I think he's not on Facebook. So.
Okay.
At the moment, I don't have. I don't have an idea. Maybe Mitch Sellers has an idea how to contact
Steve. Yeah.
Or Clint knows how to contact. No, no reply. I haven't had any contact. No contact yet. As far as I know, there is no contact.
Okay. GitHub pages. Gonna push that to next week too.
Right. I'm experimenting. I haven't finished yet. I'm not sure how to continue. I want to talk a little bit with David because he has been using GitHub pages for the documentation of NV Quick Theme, and I can understand how he has done it, but I'm not sure whether we should do it for every core module that way.
And automatic release notes, that would also be for next meeting.
Right.
And the new business.
Yeah, and the new business, we'll push that to next meeting too, but basically very shortly. Active Directory, there was a recent pull request and issue, and there is some activity, and from what I read in the comments, it looks like it's still working in the NN9.
Yeah.
So initially that was kind of abandoned, but if it's working, we can keep maintaining it. I don't have the experience for it, but if we have anybody familiar with Active Directory, I guess that's something we could still be maintaining.
I think we should ask for someone either in the DNN in Facebook group and maybe an MVP group. Maybe so there is someone who is willing to contribute, taking over the responsibility. Because I think Mike Horton, who was the original owner. I haven't heard from.
No, but there's a new guy around. I think Steph Holman or something like that, or somebody else who's done some experimenting, discussing with people who had problems with the Active Directory provider, and I think he found a solution one way or the other.
And DNN community, we should get in touch with. I guess it. Here we go. SA West. So he already has. Can I see his name? Stephen A. West. He already has right access, right?
Can be, yes, probably if he's part of the community here. Yeah.
Yeah, I see commits here. So we may want to ask him if he wants to. All the commits I see come from him.
Yeah.
this guy could be the maintainer of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll contact him. Stephen A. West, right?
Yeah.
Stephen A. West. We'll ask him if he wants to join. Stephen A. West. Need to contact.
Let's do that first before I try to do any other activity.
Yes, let's take this and bring it over here.
Okay. If not, come on.
There we go. Yeah, because pretty much all the commits come from him on that repository. So,
what is about? There used to be 4 login providers. What about? Do you have Live ID, Twitter, and Facebook? Are they still part of the core, or did they get separated as well?
I think they're still part of the core. I don't know why Active Directory was removed and the other one's kept.
It was a bigger one. I think the other ones are using OAuth, right?
I think they are.
Providers.
Here, providers.
Oh, no, it's authentication.
Authentication providers. So yeah, Facebook, Google, Live, Connect, and Twitter. So they're still part of the core, these ones.
But I think they haven't been taken care of for a long time. But that's okay. In this case, it's subject of the tech team. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know why specifically Active Directory was removed.
It was more complex.
Yeah.
And there was someone taking care of it.
Okay, so, and yeah, we'll push that to next meeting, but it would be nice to replace the source packages by symbols packages so that it's easy for people to have the debug DLLs with the symbols. Here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was a little bit confused if people need to debug DLLs, because I read that some people only distribute the symbol, the PDB files.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, because I know in Visual Studio, if you build in release mode and try to debug, it doesn't work.
Right.
So you need to build in debug. So I don't know if you need, I don't know if it's only because the debug publishes the symbols, or if you can use the release DLL with the symbols from debug and it works.
Yeah, I have to experiment that, because I know for sure that in the release mode, the DLLs are optimized. And as far as I know, things like line numbers are removed from the DLL. Because that's a waste of resources in there. But
yeah,
I haven't tried that.
As far as I know, the line numbers are included in the symbol files, but the question is whether they work. And I see a benefit in also having the source package, because the source package are installables. That means you can simply upload it and you will get the whole source code installed on your DNN, which makes it easy for newbies to start doing modifications on the mod.
No, because you lose all the connection with the original repositories. So it's much easier to just clone the repository. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can start build right away, especially if there are some tools around or so references correctly functioning. The clone of the repository, you can even clone it into the desktop module folder, and then you have all the things available in there. And it keeps the original connection to the original repository. So that's much better than a source pack.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also need to consider here if there's a bug in between some and some version of DNN where the cleanup script would fail, would make the installation fail if you try to delete a file that is non-existing. So we had an issue on that.
I think we discussed that, and that should be fixed next week.
So we need to consider that when we make the symbols package available, if we need the debug DLLs, well, even for the symbols, so we must not try to delete something that does not exist. So
I try to improve the cleanup script for SQL as well that it ignores missing objects, but I'm not sure whether that works or not.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just on some versions.
Mhm.
So okay, so I think that's it. I'm gonna stop the recording here. Thanks for attending. Stop.